This right here, to the average person, looks like, an ordinary keyboard. Well, that's not entirely the case. This is actually called a MIDI keyboard. Now, you're probably wondering, what is MIDI? Well, let me explain that. MIDI is an acronym for a device protocol that gave birth to the unique way to change the process we see music and to further push the limits of digital music performance and recording. This technology can even be in everyday devices, and you might not know about that, and some will take it for granted. The possibilities are endless with this innovation of technology and what many musicians and producers use MIDI in everyday life. Now, before I get into what MIDI is in modern society now, let's do a recap on the history and the development of MIDI. Instruments have been built and controlled by people for a long time, dating back to times long before the creation and the theory and thought process of electricity. From mechanical instruments being created in the 1800s to people building orchestrions and wind up music boxes in the early 1900s, and even the earliest of synthesizers being created in the early 20th century. Infinite of ideas and inventions come and go every day to try to push the boundaries of musical instrument theories. By around the 1970s, electronic synthesizers started to get really popular in the market, where companies such as Sequential Circuits, Roland, Yamaha, Korg, Moog, ARP, and many more were building analog electronic instruments that can communicate with one another. These instruments would manipulate electronic voltage to control the sound it plays using knobs and keys, and can only play one note at a time, known as monophonic. If you wanted to play more than one note at the same time, you'd have to get another synthesizer that costs a ton of money and set it next to each other and play this more notes. Several years went by and more companies kept working on the limits these synthesizers can do, and later produced a keyboard synthesizer that can play several notes at the same time, known as a polyphonic keyboard synthesizer. At the time, these early synth instruments were being brought into society because it's something new to listen to and play, and it has a unique sound that no one has ever heard of before. There's still some problems with musicians are in a pickle when using this so-called new technology. A few problems that had were, even though you can create different sounds on the synths by tweaking in the knobs and all that, you can't really memorize the sounds and recall those sounds at a later time. The only way you could keep the sound is you had to duct tape the knobs down so no one can accidentally adjust the knob by accident and ruining the sound that you wanted. Another problem is that you couldn't connect different synths from different companies together and play them at the same time due to each manufacturing company developing their own different protocols of the electronic communication that fit best between their own equipment. Each manufacturer has systems that were designed to work with their system and that system only. So you have to buy equipment from that same company to make them work together. That was until in 1981 that Dave Smith, who was the owner of Sequential Circuits, and a few other companies came together to help figure out a way to make a universal digital communication system that can help connect two different keyboard synthesizers from different manufacturers to play them at the same time. By 1983, an association was created called the MIDI Manufacturers Association, MMA, and with them have released the first universal system specifications called Musical Instrument Digital Interface, or MIDI, which is a communication protocol that allowed any instruments using a 5-pin DIN connector to work together, regardless of what manufacturer was made it. And thus MIDI is developed given its reframed name MIDI version 1.0, and became the forefront for the music industry for the future. 3 decades have passed, and MIDI technology is still great and used almost everything in modern society today. As time went on, musicians are now starting to switch over to a digital side of recording and production using digital audio workstations, known as DAWs, on the computer to help make recording and editing with MIDI easier. These DAWs innovated new styles of music performance and recording, like DJ performances or electronic dance music, using MIDI. With these ideas and new softwares being created, people are making instruments and controllers that has MIDI supported protocols. Some people are even building their own unique MIDI devices made out of old computer parts, cardboard, 3D printed parts, video game controllers, and so much more. The possibilities are endless because MIDI technology is everywhere nowadays. Now, right here, I have, a MIDI keyboard. Now, this basically does the same thing. It connects through MIDI protocols so I can program sounds with my DAW, with my workstation and my software to create sounds using MIDI protocol. I also have a interface right here that is connected to my microphone right next to me, and it's also using the MIDI 1.0 version protocol to connect the electronic voltage from the microphone to this interface and then connecting it to my laptop via USB. Now, over 30 years, MIDI has gone from being connected to a 5-pin DIN connection, which are still used today, to using USB connectors, like I just said, with these instruments that I have next to me, and even trying to connect some instruments with controllers using Bluetooth. You'll find MIDI technology almost everywhere nowadays. Your computer, TVs, smartphones, tablets, video game consoles, web browsers, stage lighting, and maybe even your household appliances that can possibly have MIDI capabilities to be able to process and connect and create music and audio if it has a connection to the internet. The MIDI Manufacturers Association and the Association of Music Electronic Industry, the AMEA, Japanese version of the MMA, have a team together to try to push the limits of MIDI protocol. And in 2019, at the National Association of Music Merchants, known as NAMM, had announced the work and prototyping of the new updated protocol phase of MIDI that has been labeled as MIDI 2.0. Being able to possibly enhance the MIDI 1.0 protocol with more expansion while also possibly being backwards compatible. So you can still use your MIDI 1.0 instruments and not have to throw away a whole life's worth of gear that you spent many money's worth. Now there's still a bunch of secrets that the association haven't published to the public yet due to the new protocol still being in prototyping phase. But everyone is still excited to see what's in store for the future of MIDI. I am as well. Now again, MIDI is an acronym for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. It's a technology and a way to connect devices to create and control sound, from synthesizers, samplers, instruments, and computers to help communicate with each other. As the digital era gets larger and prioritized, people are going to keep pushing the limits of MIDI in the music and audio industry. Even though MIDI is still in version 1.0 for now, I feel that MIDI still has a long way to go, and it's only going to get bigger and better from here on out.